Hello YouTube, this is Charlie426 and today we have the review of the Robot Damashii GM II Ver Anime. Now I got this I think about a week or 2 weeks ago, but once again there was a few other distractions and stuff going on which I wasn't able to make the review right away. But after that I was finally able to check this out and I am absolutely loving this figure. I am very satisfied with this figure. Of course there is maybe one or two aspects that I'm not too sure why they did that, but once again in general I'm really happy with this figure to the point where I took way too long taking pictures of it. So right off the bat, when you look at the color of this specific GM II, this is obviously the Earth Federation Force type, or depending on how you look at it, you can also say it's the Titans or Titans version as well. Because the GM II, I mean, we see it from starting from Zeta Gundam up to like Unicorn Gundam series. So there are, despite how similar they look, there are a few certain GM IIs that do also have some variants as well. So this is released as regular release, which was kind of surprising. So at this point, we can maybe assume to see the AEUG version, basically the green color of this, to be P-Bandai. But once again, it will have to be either the same price or I don't know, maybe a little bit cheaper for me to go for it. Because if it's going to be the exact same component of this figure, then I don't think I'll be getting that. Anyway, let's get on to the review right away. So, as usual, let's go over the components. So first of all, what you get, of course, is obviously the GM II itself. Absolutely loving this figure design. Now, a lot of people would say, isn't it the same thing as the GM? No, technically not. The GM II is more, you can definitely think of it as a much more refined and updated version of the GM, of the regular GM as well. So, and obviously some people are saying, isn't it the same as the HGUC version? No, the articulation here is what takes up another level in terms of that. And number two, this being the Ver Anime version, is that it definitely has more, how should I say, more anime-esque proportions and looks. You can see all these curves all over the place, while the HGUC version, which I have reviewed, I'll leave a link in the description below on both HG and Master Grades, they're very blocky. The design, well, shoulders, body, you can see there's like, they put minimum like curves into it. Maybe in the legs, maybe, but other than that, most areas are going to look very blocky as well. Alright, so other than the figure itself, now keep in mind the beam saber hilt itself comes in separate, detached, so make sure when you get it off the box, make sure to plug it in. Here are the regular stuff that you should be getting in terms of equipment. So before we go on to the actual equipment, let's look at the basic stuff, like the hands. So right off the bat, inside the box, it'll be using the multi-purpose hands, mostly holding for the beam saber hilt or the shield handle, but you also get 4 more sets of hands. So technically you get 5 in total, including the one that I'm currently using. So number 1, we get these open style, these semi-open hands, mostly for posing, and then we get these fully open hands, so that's pretty basic these days. And then here we have the trigger fingers for the beam rifle for left and right. And then finally, well, and technically, if you want to, you could use the beam saber hilts on these to give it that specific stance, or you can use these. These are also beam saber holding hands, but these ones are more in an angle. So once you put it in, it's going to hold it in an angle, while the multi-purpose hands are going to be holding it upright 90 degrees. So that's the only difference as well. And yeah, so that is pretty much it for the hands. And now we get the beam rifle. Now, because this is a GM II, keep in mind it's a GM II. It's not supposed to be loaded with weapons. It's not a main character unit. It's a mass production type unit that we see in the anime, Zeta Gundam, Unicorn Gundam. You see multiple of them. So yeah, so this is a very basic beam rifle. I'm not sure if we actually had gotten this specific rifle before, but once again we have it now. Oh yeah, I think we might have seen it in either in the GM Quill or GM Custom Ver anime. But once again, yeah, pretty basic standard design. We have the front handle that can move left and right for the double hand pose, which is, I'm gladly to say that this figure has no issues doing that pose as well. And if you want to store this for some reason onto the back skirt, you can put this plastic piece, slide it in here, and then I'm just doing this right now because I'm not really gonna show this in later. You can just, and there's a peg on the other side, and then you can just plug it in right there for storage if you want to do so. I mean, yeah, it looks okay, but once again, because this only has one weapon, my only guess is that you're going to be using this if you want to when you're doing any beam saber posing as well. So that's that. And this piece is kind of tight, as you just saw there, so do be careful not to break anything or snap anything on the process. Alright, let me just get him back on the stand. So that's that. We have the rifle. I'm going to put it away for now. to avoid confusion. And now we have the shield. Now, I've never done the shield comparisons with previous units like the RX-78 version or the actual GM VER anime version, but once again, I'm going to assume it's mostly the same, but only difference I can definitely tell is the inside, because usually back then I think there would be like these pegs or tabs that you can store in weapons. This one doesn't have that. And then we have these two holes here. So number one, you have two options. You can either use this one. I believe you have to plug it under the bottom section. Yeah, for this one. Yeah, you can plug it in here and hold this shield with a standard handle. So if whether you're left-handed or right-handed, you can do that. Or you can use this. You attach this to the arm and plug it onto the ball joint section. However, this is the only part I'm not too happy about, because with this option, you only have the option to, first of all, I'm going to plug it in. You only have the option to plug the shield onto the back side of the arm. I'm usually more of a fan of attaching the shield onto the side of the arm. And usually, most of my previous Robot Damashii figures that I bought would always have an option to plug it in onto the side. Of course, there is a way, which is not exactly ideal for me, but it is possible. You can plug it in here. You can basically rotate the lower arm and then do it like this. But once again, depending on how you look at it, it's not exactly a perfect matching here, so it may feel a little bit awkward, but it works. But just wanted to point that out, that I think this is the first time that they're doing this. I'm not sure if they were going for like a cost reduction or something like that, but yeah, definitely an odd choice. So just wanted to point that out. Alright, so let me get rid of those. Okay, well, I'd also like to mention, I think we've seen these before now. They do get the job done. However, the longer the hand holds this, the more riskier it gets for the hand to like open up and become more loose. So I would say this only works for a few times, but not ideal for the long run. Alright, so now, as usual, the way how I do it, here are all the effect parts that you should be getting. So number one, we get the most basic and typical thruster effect parts. Once again, these things work, but do be careful. These tabs here or pegs are very not too fragile, but they are easy to snap off if you're not careful. So do be careful. But once again, you only get two. That's all. They've always been stingy on these kind of stuff. Well, for example, the GM II on the backpack has 4 thrusters, and yet they only give you 2, which means mostly for the foot. But once again, even the feet has 4. So yeah, just wanted to point that out. And now for the beam saber effect parts, here are the actual beam saber effect parts. Number one, you get the standard long straight one or the curved one for slashing effects. These are absolutely nice, but once again, I do prefer the ones that has these effect parts. But once again, I can understand them putting these ones into the GM II. And then we get this. Now, you could technically put this onto the beam saber hilt as well, but once again, compared to the other two I just showed, it does feel a little bit loose for some reason. And then you get this. Now this is the beam rifle effect part. Basically, you can plug these in together and then plug this in front of the rifle, and bam, you have the firing effect. It works extremely well, although I do feel like looks too powerful for what it is. But once again, it's a really nice effect part. All right, so oops, there we go. Now we've seen the basics, or we basically saw the components of the kit of the figure. Now let's look at the figure itself, because I can definitely say that they've taken the articulation on this guy on certain areas another level compared to the previous one. So they're definitely testing new articulation styles out, which makes me wonder if they're going to go a little bit more crazy, other than using the anime like Zeta Gundam, Double Zeta Gundam series mobile suits. But also, I wonder if they're planning to go on to the manga side of certain things, because the articulation used on the shoulders, for example, are just way too good to be wasted on just the anime, like the animation stuff. Because, for example, if you've seen Gundam Katana or We Are Federation Hooligans manga, you might know what I'm talking about. But let's see what we got here. Alright, so let's start with the head as usual. Definitely liking the head. I do like the fact that, once again, it's not exactly the same GM head it's a little bit different from the GM head itself, because number one, the GM head does not have an antenna, definitely has more refined look, and once again, the Vulcans, now you can see the yellow paint applied as well. So, once again, beautiful visor on the inside. You can see the inside metallic green or metallic silver that's inside been colored as well. So, once again, it can go down that much and upwards a lot. That's actually a pretty good amount of articulation. And I believe, yeah. So yeah, that's as far as it can go. And then 360 twist, I would say, or twist, not rotation, is possible. Now, do be careful with the antenna. Once again, any gym unit, the antennas are very important in terms of design, but also it's also one of the most fragile parts out there. And unfortunately, this does not come with a replacement part. So you only have this. There's no extra antenna parts like other Gundam or anime stuff. All right, so. That's that. Now let's get the main body. Once again, body looks pretty good. And then the standard design. You have a very nice ab crunch going on here, side to side, not so much, but rotation 360 is also possible. Now, despite being Robot Damashii, there were a few figures that 360 twist was not possible because of the design here. But once again, no issue on that. And looking at the backpack, definitely a much more familiar looking backpack with 4 thrusters going on here that can move up and down individually. Now these can pop out, so do be careful when you're doing that. They don't pop out that easily, but once again, if you put enough force to pull them out, they do pop out. And once again, definitely loving the small camera detail and 1 beam saber hilt. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I feel like they could maybe make a variant with 2 beam saber hilts, but once again, most of the cases, even in the Gunpla sections like the HG or Master Grade, they usually lock up the other side so that you can't really use it to really emphasize that this thing only has 1 beam saber hilt. I'm not sure why, but yeah, definitely I always thought of that to be an odd, a really strong emphasis. Now for the shoulders. Now they take the shoulder articulation to another level. So back then it would be just pretty much you have the main body that can move forward and backward, and maybe an extra shoulder tab that can pull out and then move outwards, and that's pretty much it. That it still has that, but has more basically. So for now, before we go into that, let's go over the basics. So going upwards to the side, you can see that something popped out here. So going outwards 90 degrees or even higher up is possible for the arm. And now for the shoulder joint, other than the basics ones we have, you can do this. You can pull all the way out like that. So you get a really, really nice stance. Now there were a few figures like this, but I think this is the one that has the most range because of the overall simplistic design here. So you can definitely pull it all the way out, and this part as well. So they take in a really another step on the articulation, which this also makes it really easy to do the double stance pose with the rifle as well. Alright, other than that, so the arm itself, yeah, without the joint, this is as far as it can go because of the shoulder armor as well. But once again, 360 twist on the arm itself is possible. We get a very nice double jointed bend on the arm, and then like I mentioned before, we have a rotating part here. Now this is definitely a very a really nice feature that does prevent certain old past issues like the Alex syndrome or a certain stance compared to the images. But once again, once you rotate it into another angle, it may feel a little bit off depending on how you look at it. So just wanted to point that out. And once again, hands are your typical Robot Damashii style hands where the ball joint is on the arm, the hole is in the hand. And then we do get a little bit of wrist movement here with the extra movement. Just wanted to point that out. And then obviously your 360 rotation on the arm is possible. That's always been there. And then let's get the waist section. Waist section definitely basically one, no big deal. Now usually for the Gym 2s or gyms in general, they would have some design differences time to time. But yeah, this is the standard design. Side skirts, you know the drill. They're pretty much the same way how they work. But once again, the side skirts, usually you would be able to flap them out upwards maybe just a little bit. But now, according to the menu, you can actually slide them, not slide them, but you can actually pull them outwards a little bit more compared to than usual. I'm not sure if you can see that on camera. Yeah, you can see I actually pulled it out like that. So, which gives you a little bit more range movement onto the, actually, there we go, on the legs to go to the side, because side skirts, or having side skirts always limits the legs. But once again, with this, you have a little bit more free range of movement going to the side 90 degrees for the legs as well. And then obviously going to the front 90 degrees, no problem. Back skirt still doesn't move, so that's going to be an issue, but no big deal. And then we still have this swivel or hinge system that you can relocate or position the legs in a different area. And then side swivel is present as well. Make sure that it's aligned properly or it's going to look awkward. And then bend wise, you get a very nice bend on the legs. We can see some internal details, and the knee armor section moves like that. And then feet wise, obviously we have the typical Robot Damashii style feet where we have these gigantic joints going on here working very well. And then we get a very nice pivot joint as well. And I think this guy doesn't have, oh yeah, okay, so he does have a toe bend. Now, because how small the feet is, I always forget whether this guy has a toe bend or not. Alright, so we've seen the basics of the figure itself. So I would definitely say it still retains most of the basic, technology applied to the Robot Damashii Vert anime figures. But once again, they have taken another step onto the shoulder armor. Now keep in mind, I haven't got the recent Gundam Mark II Vert anime or HGUC Vert anime. So maybe they would also have the same articulation or not. But once again, at this point, I am kind of curious. So I might actually try out either the Mark II Vert anime or the HGUC Vert anime, one of those two as well. Alright, so we've seen the basics of the figure. I'll be right back with this equipment demonstration, so I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So here we have the first demonstration here with the beam rifle. Once again, I'm able to hold the rifle with two hands with no problem as well, thanks to the shoulder articulation here. So I think it works pretty well. There's obviously a lot more poses you can pull off with these two shoulder arm articulation as well. But once again, I really like the fact that I can do this double hand pose with no issues. Usually back then, it would be a really pain in the ass to do this specific pose, that you'd be cramming in certain areas, you're kind of forcing certain parts, so it wasn't ideal. But in this case, I feel I'm really much more comfortable. There's no parts being forced to move like this, so we're all good here. And then with the added beam saver effect part, it works absolutely nice. And just wanted to point out, you can use the the thruster effect parts with no issues as well. Of course, obviously, we're going to need a lot more. But once again, I would assume now, if you did have 4, applying all 4 might be a little bit tricky because there's not as many space between them. So, yeah. Alright, so we've seen this, and I think there's only one left to show, and that is the beam saver effect part. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. So here we have the final demonstration here. So I applied the shield onto the right arm and then holding the beam saber hilt on the left arm, because once again the beam saber hilt is on the left section, so decided to do it the other way around, and just wanted to show that the shield can be applied on both arms. Just wanted to point that out. Now you can use also this handle, but once again, like I said before, it does get loose in general. I'm not talking about the connection point between the shield and the handle. I'm talking about the area that the hand actually needs to hold. Because the longer it holds, the hand grip gets weaker. Hence, you will actually find yourself the shield constantly rotating around the hand. So, not ideal. So I decided to go with the ball jointed connection here. It's a pretty stiff connection once you work it out. So just be aware. And once again, if you want to have it on the side like this, you do need to rotate the lower arm as well. So just be aware of that. Alright, and now I'm using the curved beam saber, but once again, you have the other options like the straight one. And with the actual, now personally, when I was trying to, back then they would still give these curved effect parts, and I was trying to give out that really natural or, less awkward looking slash effect going on here. But once again, it always felt awkward because it's how it didn't look as dynamic as I want it to be. Now it could be because I'm still not used to the whole posing thing, because once again, I enjoy building, but posing is a whole different story. So I'm still studying and trying all sorts of stuff going on here. But once again, this is the first time while reviewing Robot Damashii figures, I had really less issues. And I think it was also because thanks to the new shoulder articulation here. Granted, now I am doing a little bit exaggerated, but I just wanted to show you guys how the shoulder joints work one more time. So it may look a little bit messy with these things out. So if you want to, I guess you could kind of like jam it in there a little bit more to make it look less messy. But once again, you get my point. So really, while it is only a GM II, I think they did an excellent job in terms of the articulation system, which gives out a much more dynamic look onto this figure. And that is pretty much it for the review. So this was the review of the Robot Damashii GM II Vert anime. Now if you're into mass production units and you want to try a Robot Damashii figure, I think this is a really good start. Actually, if you buy this, you may not actually not want the previous stuff like the GM Custom or previous stuff like that. So just be aware of that. So once again, really looking forward to what else they're trying to do with this articulation system. And I'm really hoping they even jump into like the Gundam Katana or We Are Federation Hooligans manga stuff as well. Anyway, if you guys got any questions or requests in the comment below, I still have more stuff to buy and build and make reviews out, so please stay tuned. Until then, see you guys next time.